trickling in as we open up things here for day 3 of the belly burn challenge. Yeah, so I timed this really good this week. Both my kids are home today. My wife's away in Edmonton. And we're doing the best we can after not the best sleep, but we still show up. I think there's a message in there somewhere about imperfect action. So just bear with me as I might stumble over my words at times. Sleep deprivation is not kind, as you guys sometimes know. Excellent. We got a good crew showing up today on day 3. Usually with this, 4 days of this, people start to trickle down in motivation even over that quickly. You have a time frame. So it's nice to see all of you guys out here. We've got lots in store, but just before we jump into the presentation today, if you were on the previous 2 calls or you did the homework, just share your biggest takeaway, like what you're taking action on before anything else in the chat. I'd love to get a kind of consensus of what's been resonating most to this point. We've got Diane, Chris, Ray, Lane, Trevor's here, Sherry. See a lot of familiar names. The ones who keep showing up are the ones that get results. Oh, way to take action. Bought fish oil. Love it. I find with fish oil, I almost get hypo, like glycemic, like blood sugar drops a little bit. So that's only been my experience. So I take it in a smaller dose than what they might recommend. But I know most people don't get that. So nonetheless, a lot of health benefits. If it gives you a small uptick in metabolism, why not, right? Okay, we got protein is my new friend. Some of you guys jumped in on the guest link. If you can hit the 3 dots next to your name and you can rename yourself. I just like to know who we're talking to. We're trying to track points as well. That'll make Devyani's job a lot easier if everyone's got their name accounted for. No snacking, increased steps. Okay, so we got some definite themes with protein and fish oil. Good stuff, guys. All right. Yeah, you can always go back and watch the replays. I do share them via email. I know a lot of people are not necessarily getting them that way, but they're also listed in our school classroom in the school group. Okay, here we are. Present, full screen, double thumbs up if you can see this. We're talking hacks today. The stuff people want, but we always have to save this for after the foundation is built. So you've been rewarded for sticking to it. Now we're going to get into some of the things that might be overlooked. Might be a reminder to some, but that's as important, right? It's as important to be reminded as it is to be taught new information when it comes to fitness, because basics work best. So recap for the first 2 days. Figured out how much calories our body actually needs and protein. And we learned the power of protein and strength training to keep our metabolism churning and burning well into our 60s, 70s, and beyond. Stuff. Okay, someone's in the waiting room and can't get in. Okay, I'm not sure why that is, but we'll move on. And then we busted these common myths that metabolism slows down with age. It does if we don't do the right things, but it doesn't just magically slow down till age 60 when it's maybe 1% a year. So that's a good sign that we have more control than we think. The fact that carbs aren't to blame for weight gain. We've never cut a member's carbs to less than 100 grams a day, and they all lose fat at equal rates, right? The big picture is calories, protein, movement. And if you focus solely on carbs, you kind of lost in the forest for the weeds there. And that's not the same, but I haven't slept enough. Cardio burns fat by itself. It supports the diet, but it can't burn fat on its own, at least long term, right? Because your body adapts to it and it makes up the difference in other ways. And then lastly, this one's controversial. Men's bodies burn more calories than women's. It's a very marginal difference if it's equated, right? 2 men, women, same height, weight, and activity levels. Doesn't make much difference. The problem is you're comparing yourself to your husband who's maybe 40 pounds heavier than you. When he drops calories for a week, he drops a lot of water weight, and you're not going to drop equivalent water weight. So keep that in mind. Fat loss is fairly equal between genders. All right. So how to win, just a reminder, we are tracking points on the back end of this. We've got a Costco gift card to give away, a 10-day trial of coaching, and creatine, which I think we'll talk about maybe not today, but tomorrow as being one of those hacks as well. And how to earn points? Well, just being here, you get 5 points. If you share your daily assignment, you complete the daily assignment, you get 5 points. And then anytime you comment, up to 5 per call, we're incentivizing participation. Awesome. All right, the chat's active. I like it. So first off, we're going to share a hidden obstacle that might be slowing your metabolism based off some of the recent science. Are you getting enough iodine? Okay. So the reason this is becoming a bit of an issue nowadays is because there's a real shift to like sea salt and these different types of salt that are purported to be healthier, when really they put iodine in table salt back in the 1900s when they found so many people were deficient in it, in iodine. And it was causing thyroid problems and goiters. And there was a whole easy fix for it, was to put iodine in table salt, because everyone uses table salt. Boom, no more goiters. But a lot of people aren't using iodized table salt anymore. Okay. So I would encourage you to get enough iodine through iodized salt, ideally. That's the easiest solution. And yeah, Carissa, we had a chat about this, so it reminded me to put it in here. Iodized salt, iodine-rich foods, which are pretty tough if you're not a big seafood eater. You're not going to be eating kelp or seaweed. Then it's probably best to get a little bit of iodized salt in your diet. You can use those other mineralized sea salts all you want, but I would encourage a small amount of iodized salt daily for this reason. Selenium. So the thyroid is your main producer of calorie burn, right? It's your metabolism. So if you're suboptimal here, we're trying to boost it naturally. Now, if you have a clinical deficiency, you'll probably be treated with like Synthroid, the medication. So please take this advice with a grain of salt, literally. If you're on a medication, it doesn't so much matter because they're probably accounting for your nutrition and keeping your levels balanced. This is for everyone who's got okay thyroid output, but they want to kind of maximize it, right? So iodized salt first, selenium-rich foods. So tuna, eggs. Eggs comes up a lot in here. Keep that in mind. Eggs are good for you. Brazil nuts in moderation as well. Sorry, I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat. Yeah, salt gets demonized nowadays because there were some small links between salt and blood pressure. And if you have, high blood pressure, then you have to moderate your salt. But for the average person, it has no impact on your blood pressure, at least not chronically. Like maybe acutely, if you eat too much salt in a processed meal, it might raise it temporarily. But it has a lot of health benefits. Your performance in the gym will greatly benefit from enough salt in your diet too. Zinc, and then a lot of the other ones are just the basics that seem to align with everything. Managing your stress, getting enough sleep, don't have sick kids, wink, wink. Don't overdo the dieting for too long. That can slow thyroid output. It's going to happen no matter what, but you want to try to negate it from happening too much or too fast. So eat as much as possible and still hopefully lose weight is the goal. Yeah, Marilee, pink Himalayan salt. It's probably from Pakistan. Like a lot of that stuff is marketing. Regular iodized table salt is the way to go here. Because those new age salts, they're trying to do healthy things. They've taken away something that was super beneficial to our culture, society as a whole. Good old table salt is the way to go. And then, yeah, exercise smart. It can benefit your metabolism, but too much exercise can actually have a downstream effect on slowing thyroid output. Okay. And this is not overly important. It's out there in social media world that too much like fibrous veggies can interfere with iodine absorption. It's true, but you'd have to eat a ton for it to make a difference. So eat your veggies still. Just maybe not too much, which would be hard to do. No one overeats greens that easily. Okay, any questions on this beyond what's happening? Okay, Beth, so low blood pressure. There you go. So that's absolutely can benefit. All right. So the takeaway from this, drop in the chat what you're going to do to optimize your thyroid from the list. I wouldn't recommend trying to do it all, but what's the easiest thing you think you may not be doing that can help with your thyroid? I would get that down on paper because as soon as you write it out, you're going to take action on it. We're not moving on until we get some. There we go. Change from sea salt to iodized. Brazil nuts, yes. Yeah, good balance. You can overdo salt like anything. You can overdo anything, but frankly, most people are underutilizing it because they're scared of it. So is when we look at our client food logs, I'm fine with like 4,000 milligrams of salt a day, especially if they're drinking enough water and they're sweating and strength training. Okay, good. So iodized salts. I've won you guys over. All right. Part two to this equation, the hacks. What are you doing daily? What I mean by that is your NEAT. So you guys might be familiar with this term. It's everything that isn't conventional exercise. So I'll open this up. Like they did a research paper. Now, if you work in farming, you probably don't need fitness coaching because you can have a hard time keeping the weight on, let alone off. But for the vast majority of us who stare at a screen most of the day, we're not going to get this level of NEAT. We're not farming, right? Although farmers now have more automations, but nonetheless, this is agriculture, strenuous work. So where we can make up the difference is seated work, not moving at all, versus seated work, discretion or requirement to move. Okay. I'm going to X this out. There we go. Okay. Went all the way back to the start. Okay. So what that is that's a 300 calorie difference a day, which actually is going to help substantially with your diet, right? Is the fact that you don't need to cut 300 more calories from your food. Just having a requirement in your head, at least, to move throughout the day, get those steps in, that's all we're talking here. That can be a 300 calorie difference. And there's some other benefits to NEAT versus high intensity cardio or boot camps, which I'll talk about in a sec. So all this means if you have a job that requires you to be at a desk, try to schedule in movement like it's your job, or at least a part-time job. Okay. Lean people tend to fidget 5 times more than overweight individuals. Like they're just more naturally inclined to want to get up and move and fidget and twiddle their thumbs and tap their toes. So you do want to try to become that fidgety person a bit. It makes all the difference. How I recommend, I'll go through a list of how I try to combine habit stacking to save time and still get my steps in. But there's a short list of things that you can do. It all adds up. Yeah, and I said yesterday's call, or was that Monday? It's blending together now. Is I may have made this statement that cardio was ineffective for weight loss, and that's true, but NEAT is not the same thing as conventional intentional exercise. All right, so this is that constrained energy model where the more high intensity exercise you do, the more your body tries to make up the difference, and there isn't much of a gap after a certain point. NEAT doesn't apply to this because your body doesn't see you fidgeting and moving around while the microwave cooks as like strenuous exercise we need to adjust for. Okay. So this is the hack, is to just get steps in at a moderate pace. Doesn't have to be moderate even, right? It's just any little bit adds up. Okay. Yeah, it's hard when you're super busy, but the key is some of these things. So insert your best tip in the comments below. I'd actually like to get kind of a longer list of how people find ways in our crazy culture to move. Culture that requires so much time sitting at a computer, a couch, although we do that willingly, and in cars to commute everywhere, right? You live in Europe, you get steps in without even trying because it's just the culture is developed around walking. Always take the stairs. Walking while watching a movie. Okay, hockey, yeah. Walking to the grocery store. Yeah, I like the habit stack of like a TV show in my treadmill. Like, I don't want to stare at a wall on a treadmill, but if I'm watching a live hockey game or a episode of a show, it goes by fast. So that's often what I do on days I don't have a strength workout. I like that. Yeah. So not trying to be efficient with moving and bringing in the groceries in one trip, multiple trips. That's a good one, Kristen. Walk during commercials, even like little bodyweight squats and stuff will work here. It's just trying not to be like running for full out intensity because of the aforementioned constrained energy model, right? Where if it's too intense, it has benefits to a degree, but your body's going to try to make up the difference. With NEAT, doesn't so much do that. This is the real calorie hack. At least 300 plus calories a day difference. All right. I love the chat blowing up with options there. We'll definitely consolidate those into a list. But this is where I tell people to start, is not to obsess about 8,000 to 10,000 steps if you're nowhere close to that. Just take your average step count, and your phone should have a built-in, you don't have a wearable, a built-in like health app, and it'll have your steps. Of course, not everyone has their phone on all the time, so you might want to round up, but take your average from the last 30 days, add 25%. So that's the new target, right? From 6,000 to 7,500, for example. Again, it might make a 300 calorie a day difference. Yeah, keep them coming. I like the chat options there. Okay. So that's maybe not a hack, but it's the most successful hack, is permanently changing how you move day to day. Because if you go from 6,000 steps today to 8,000 consistently, you're going to lose weight just with that change alone. Okay, so this is a short list. A lot of these things I talked about as being very overrated on day one, and I stand by that, but every little bit helps. So just so you have the hacks to take away with you, here's a short list of things that, some research has shown a benefit to. But remember, it's an acute benefit. So you'd have to keep doing these things day after day to actually see it make a big difference in the long run, right? So there is talk that cold exposure, I don't love the science on calorie burn, but it does increase brown fat activity. So that's brown fat. A lot of babies have brown fat, keeps them very metabolically active, whereas white fat doesn't burn as much calories. So if it turns that on, in theory, there should be some benefits to our metabolism over the long run if you're consistently doing cold exposure. If you hate doing it, can't see yourself doing it consistently day after day, probably not going to make much difference, right? We talked about caffeine and green tea, potential to burn 200 extra calories a day. That potential is inflated, but that was in an actual research paper. So every little bit helps. And we already talked about NEAT, small movements add up. Spicy foods, yes, no, maybe so. But again, you'd have to have spicy foods every day, and that might not make sense for you. And these are more lifestyle based, like early morning sunlight, we tend to move more, we feel better. So it has kind of a residual effect. High protein breakfast, people in the research showed ate less the rest of the day. So by default, you're boosting your metabolism by getting into a steeper calorie deficit. Mouth taping. So there's a lot of popular products on the market for doing this, but being a mouth breather reduces your quality of sleep. So if you have apnea, I wouldn't recommend this. It might be harmful, but if you breathe through your nose for the most part, and it's a mixed bag, actually mouth taping, and I've never done it myself. I just saw the research here and was kind of compelled to look into it further. I know it's fairly popular in biohacking circles. Okay. Yeah, of course, so that does add up. So that last one is the chewing piece, where there was a research paper on twins, and they had them in a lab eating, and one twin ate a lot slower versus the other twin that just ate the way they normally did. And the twin that ate slower ended up losing more weight and eating less food. It's more so because it just gives you that signal that you're full faster than the person who's, inhaling the food that fast. Okay. So from that list, just drop in the chat what you think you can realistically add into your routine almost daily from this list. Because if you don't do that, it's not going to make much of a difference. And it's totally cool to be none of the above. Because there's only a few of these that I actually would actively do. Protein timing, I'm already doing. Yeah, morning sunshine. I think you've seen a lot of the benefits to that. Even in the winter, getting some sun in your eyes, you'll sleep better later. Excellent. Got some good ones here. Caffeine and green tea, protein. Very good. Okay. Awesome. We'll keep this moving along. We're almost there. So I wanted to talk about hormones. So there's a question yesterday about menopause, and Martha was on speaking to how she's lost almost 60 pounds, but was noticing the bigger benefit, arguably at least, was her quality of sleep improved. Less hot flashes, better mood, etc. So all women have to go through it. Men have their own issues at this stage of life, testosterone drops and so on, but menopause is, I think, unbeaten in terms of its effects on people, and it varies, but it certainly can lead to what I see as the bigger issue, a significant loss of bone and significant loss of muscle if you don't do the right things, right? So the good news is a lot of what we've talked about over the last few days is the most beneficial to managing menopause. Trying to keep your stress at bay. You're less resilient to stress as your hormones change and tank. Lift weights for the reasons that we talked about, because bone and muscle tends to drop a lot faster once you go through this transition. And then sleep, manage your weight, minimize alcohol. Alcohol can be a real trigger for side effects. And then regular checkups, blood work, potentially hormone replacement therapy, right? Not my area of expertise, but if you've exhausted all the previous options and you still are having bad insomnia, hot flashes, etc., then that may have to be the route you go. Okay. Any questions? Trying to keep up. Green tea is one. Good. Awesome. Let's do the assignment here, and then I do have an opportunity for those that aren't a member to potentially jump in. But I'd like to, Trevor, do you mind unmuting? Are you in a place where you can chat really briefly?
That's going to be going into the meeting system because it can't pull anything off. So that's going to use the blanking plate there. And then also potentially running dry.
Yeah, I wanted to a little feedback from someone who's new to the program. We've talked to some people who've followed along.
Going to the gym for running a simple cycle. So that's what this.
We might not be able to talk to you. It looks like you're getting some feedback there.
Yeah. Sorry.
There we go. There we go. Yeah. So what? Sharing
post on the lotto.
Yeah, that's all good. And something's going on in the background.
I wanted to share about. Sorry, I'm up. And then Redwater team is 3 p.m. So you want me to share about? Sorry, just how I think it must be new to the program.
Yeah, but I'm hearing your background. I'm not sure. I think everyone else can hear you too. It's like so we may have to save that. No worries. I just want to. You've had success and you're new to the program. So we'll keep you muted for now. All good. So I'll put this in the chat, the challenge homework. And yeah, I can't hear him either, Lane. It looks like something's on in the background. He's in a busy place. So Lane, I don't mind chatting with you if you don't mind, because I saw your name pop up. Are you in a place where you limited background noise?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, perfect. I just want to take you back to day one. Like, what were you scared or skeptical of before starting? And what was that initial, I guess, incentive that got you to take the leap? Like, what made you convinced to get through that?
Yeah, so I had gone through a lot of like trauma, and then I had cancer, which caused me to gain weight. So I was struggling personally, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like I'm on a cliff. And I just went to France and I was hiking a mountain. I almost died. I had a meltdown in the middle of my hike. And I'm like, this is not the life I want to live when I retire. So when I got back, my friend was in your program. So I reached out to her. And then I was kind of contemplating all the time. And you asked me a question and you said, what are you waiting for? And that's exactly because it was the end of May, and I'm like, oh, I'll start after summer. I like ice cream and all these food, hot dog stands and whatever. So that question really hit home, and I signed up the next day. I'm down about 24 pounds in the last about 8 months. It's a slow roll, definitely, for sure. I feel like I was on a fast track, but it's small steps because I just came back from Costa Rica and I fit in clothes that I didn't fit in last summer. I was more comfortable in a bathing suit. So even though I'm not where I want to be, I still probably have another 30 to 40 pounds I want to lose. I just feel so much better and I have no regrets whatsoever. So, yeah.
That's a great takeaway. Yeah, I mean, 24 of these, that's a fair bit of fat off your body, right? I always like people to think in visuals, and 24 pounds plus muscle gained, like there's always muscle gained too. So that if you look only at the scale, it's masking some of the progress. And yeah, you look back, if you're, oh, I want to lose 30 pounds in a year, that would be a significant win. So you're on track for that. And then some. So awesome. What if, yeah, maybe dive in just before we let you go into the non-obvious benefits, like the surprising stuff that's kind of jumped out from this process and how it's helped beyond the scale and measurements and those things.
Ah, just I think even the non-surprising, like what do you mean by that?
Or sorry, surprising, like the non-obvious benefits, like the surprising
Oh,
stuff in your day to day.
oh, well, I was taking B12. Anyways, taking medication. Now I don't need to take medication.
Yeah.
Um, just my energy level is way up there. My girls are cheering me on as I'm, working out, and my girls are very active and stuff like that. So just
Mhm.
having that support as well, like you don't think your kids who are teenagers are going to be your biggest champions, and they're there in the background cheering you on. So that was nice to hear, like nice to have. And just again, my friends recognizing, even though, like I say, I feel like it's only 25 pounds or 24 pounds, but it's a lot. So
Mhm.
friends recognizing and all that kind of stuff, I feel the love from my family and my friends for sure. So yeah, just a lot of benefits, and I feel my skin's better, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
surprising. Like my skin, and yeah, I had skin condition before, which I feel like doesn't pop up as much anymore. So lots of hidden benefits when it comes to
Mhm.
weight loss and changing your diets. And I don't get heartburn as much
Mm.
anymore, which I used to get all the time. So
Yeah.
those are all different kind of things that surprised me.
That's awesome. And you're getting some love in the chat as well for your progress. So don't downplay what you've accomplished. It's absolutely critical to see, what you've done and where you're headed is, it's hard not to. We all fixate on where we want to be and lose sight of the progress we're making. That Harper one comes up more than anything. It's surprising, but yeah, it's a real discomfort for everyone who lays down and gets that. So awesome to see. That's been your experience. Good stuff, guys. Yeah, Irene was able to drop diabetes med too. So yeah, all those good things. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate it. All right. So don't forget to do the homework. We're going to draw a name from those who complete the homework for a physical copy of my book. I'll mail that out to it. We'll just randomly draw it. And basically, in summary, the first 3 days is sort of the slide to screenshot. We're trying to make sure we consolidate a lot of information into the action steps. So consider fish oil for the health benefits, the uptick in your metabolism. Longer term, look to build muscle mass. It's as important as losing fat. Focus on NEAT, fidgety, walking, protein, quality sleep, track those calories if the goal is fat loss, and then optimize the thyroid, right, through iodized sea salt, or not sea salt, salt. Cool. Okay, just before we go, my vision is to have everyone comfortable in whatever they choose to wear at the beach or pool this summer. So that work starts today, right? Doesn't have to be a mankini, ideally not, but whatever you feel best in, we want to get you comfortable. So for those who aren't a member, I'd love for you to share something very quick that we've put together, the team and I. So what that is a 10-day test drive. So if you're a friend of a client, you get first dibs on this, but if you're watching this, you don't know anyone in the program, we are going to extend that to at least 10 people who've gone through the challenge thus far. This is the best way to get you out of that skepticism where you're scared to take the leap. To try it for 10 days, I'm pretty confident we'll win you over, but if not, you at least give yourself a plan to follow on your own afterwards. So if clients know anyone, certainly drop a message. I can share this with them as well before Sunday when we wrap it up. I think that's as many people as I can handle myself, at least to start with this. Cool. Awesome. So day 4 tomorrow, bringing it all together. I've appreciated all of you putting time in to show up to this. Hopefully the value is there and you've got some action steps for yourself. Oh, sorry, a link to the homework. One more time in the chat. And day 4, we're just going to try to bring it all together. The combination of maximizing your metabolism and reversing aging. So I use an AI algorithm to determine my biological age. Take it with a bit of a grain of salt, but at least it shows you your inner health. And I'm going to talk through the 12 steps I've used to help reverse my biological age by 11-ish years, according to this AI craziness. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you there. Otherwise, appreciate the time. Get that homework in. Any questions, you guys know where to find me. Going once, twice. We'll leave it there. Have a good one, guys. Back to the sick kids. Cheers.